Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Cannon Busters episodes 7 through 9. So, yeah, as I said last week, we are doing 3 episodes a week now for this. The reason simply being just we have to catch up in time to be able to have this slot go to the next show for currently airing stuff. Because we have 2 currently airing anime coming up this next season of anime, and want to get to them both. So Shaman King 2021, when that comes out, it will be taking this slot. But in the meantime, we do have to finish this. So we have this week, and then we have next week, and that's it. There's only 12 episodes of this. So, yeah, we're finishing this out pretty quickly. This series has gone a lot quicker than most do on the channel. But I'm okay with this. I feel like it would have been better still to have it paced out better, but it's like for what we had, it's probably the best option we could do. So, yeah, not really too much of a choice, in all honesty. But either way, I'm interested to get to more. So, last time we met Nine, who is this old red-skinned samurai, who, though a bit of a drunk and a bit of a moocher, is very strong, very skilled, and very observant. He's not caught off guard easily or anything, and his drinking doesn't seem to be a hindrance on him or others, outside of, drinking all of Philly's beers. We also got this creature called a fetter, which was it was a sorcerer, I believe they said. But it, like, I don't know if it was either that something had gone wrong or that it was just like the magic was too powerful or something. But I don't remember exactly how they explained it, but it's like it was a sorcerer and they were like so powerful that they needed to keep like absorbing the life force or something. I feel like they could have explained it better. It was like a cool, interesting idea, but they could have explained it better. And maybe the comic this is based off of does so, but it just feels like it could have been gone through a little more, maybe, on the exact specifics of it. Oh, excuse me. But either way, so they managed to defeat that, especially thanks to Sam's Cannon Buster mode, which Casey now knows of, but isn't saying anything. They're keeping it their secret for the moment. We're just going to kind of have to see how this goes. It's hard to say what they plan to do with it going forward and everything. But we've already kind of been partially introduced to the rest of our villains from the opening and stuff, so I'm looking forward to meeting them maybe in these episodes. Maybe we'll see Nine return, considering his part in the opening seems like he's more important than just like 2 episodes worth of content. But who knows? Who knows? We'll see. And in the meantime, we're just going to get this started. And hope for the best. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. Episodes. That being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we will begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, now that we are 9 episodes in, I feel like with only 3 episodes to go in at least this season, I don't know if there's planned to be more, but I think I can give a fair assessment of my thoughts on this series. This series, Can Busters, it has great ideas, concepts, design, characters, all of that stuff. But the actual execution of it all is lacking. And it was very, very noticeable in these episodes. Like in the first couple episodes, it was actually fine for the most part. The first couple episodes were actually pretty good, I would even say. But after that, it started to decline, and noticeably so. And again, in these 3 episodes, it was, again, very noticeably weaker. The animation seems to fluctuate between very stilted, very just static and weak, to fairly good. It never goes like amazing, except for like maybe a couple scenes of like Sam going cannon buster mode. Those are definitely the best scenes in terms of animation, but everything else, it just only gets to pretty good. But most of the time it's kind of like just subpar. And then there's points again where it just gets really weak in terms of the animation. Like there's very, very little actual movement to anything. And even the expressions leave a little to be lacking at points. The voice acting is fine. I have no real issue with the voice acting. And again, the concepts and everything are good, but it's the way a lot of this is executed. Yeah, the series, like, it's not so much about the fact that it's very episodic, with an ongoing story kind of in the background. That's not so much the issue. It's more of like how each thing is handled. It just feels like certain parts are rushed through. Certain parts are just kind of not given the attention that they should be, and not given as much depth and explanation. And there's some like plot points that seem like they're just almost too serious out of nowhere. Like the entire thing about Casey having kind of that crisis of self there and becoming suicidal for a bit kind of came out of nowhere. And it was so serious and so like horrifically depressing that it just felt out of place. And I have nothing wrong with this series doing that kind of thing. It's just, I feel like there has to be some kind of lead into that. There has to be something that, you know, builds into that kind of idea. Just kind of thrusting it on us like that in just one, just big foul swoop, it just comes across as really jarring. And on top of that, it's like there were points in here. I especially noticed it when the sorcerer was talking to the king and all. Locke, that's his name. When he was talking to the king, there were points that were where the dialogue, like the written dialogue that they were reading, the voice actors, was really bad. Like very stereotypical, and not in a good way, like not like, oh, it's stereotypically funny, it's ridiculous. No, it actually felt like really like hard to listen to, if that explains it well enough. It was just so bland and poorly worded and whatnot. uh, and these plot points, it's like it goes from plot point to plot point so quickly, it's like you don't have really enough time to focus on anything. And I feel like part of that might be because it's, I think this was made like to come out on Netflix. Um, like that was part of the plan initially, but I might be wrong, but I don't know. I think that this would have worked better as like a televised series, and had more episodes, like twice as many episodes instead of 12, had 24, because then they would be able to flesh out a lot of this stuff better. Um, for example, the entire thing with those cities that were, again, very much like Atlas and Mantle from Ruby. That could have They could have done so much more with that. And yeah, there was a little bit of kind of calling to that in this last episode here with the chief of these. I guess they're supposed to be mole kind of people. Philly called them moles at least. But the chief there is, it kind of brought back the idea of like classism and whatnot. But I feel like they could have gone into that more. But at the same time, that was also another thing that felt very out of nowhere. Like, yeah, we've seen examples in this series so far of kind of people living in squalor and everything, and comparatively to the what we've seen of the kingdom of Boudica and how the royals there lived and everything prior to, what happened. So it's like we've seen that kind of stuff, but I don't know, it just seems like they brought in that kind of idea, and specifically the way it was handled, the direct comparisons and everything. Like they didn't really do that as much before. And suddenly it's just like blasting it in your face, and it's just like you could have handled that better. Um, this episode with the crab and these mole people also was excessively random. Like a lot of these other episodes, despite being episodic, a lot of them felt like they had a point. Like, okay, we're stopping in this town because it's the next stop on our way. But this one, it's just like they did something off screen where they stole what happened, what ended up being a egg from this crab, this giant ice crab. They're being chased by it, and all of a sudden there's mole people who make them sing and then try to make them fight to the death for some prophecy. And it's like this has nothing to do with anything. There was also Kelby and Odin's side of the story we got to see a little more of in these episodes, which I'll admit that was the best part of these episodes. Um, Getting to see them like just continuing on their journey, and even their fight with and just discussions with Hilda after. Um, it's like that stuff was interesting, and I almost kind of wish that that was the focus, but that was definitely the B plot. And it's just, again, it's something else that just wasn't given as much time as it should have been, because there's so much opportunity to talk about that kind of thing, the entire differences between these kingdoms, and how both Odin and Kelby have been raised into believing that their kingdom and way of life is just so much better. And there's blatant parallels to like America in here with like the entire historical revisionism and painting out everyone else to be enemies and like acting like we never did any wrong. There's definite parallels to that. And they could have gone so far into that, and that would have actually felt natural if they did. Because that kind of stuff, like, that would have felt like it actually made sense to introduce through all of this, through everything we've seen and through everything that we have just been told throughout the series. But they don't even try to go into that more. It's just like a brief mention. Odin and Hilda are both stubborn on their stances, and we see a little bit more of the humanity and kindness in Kelby, and that's about it. It's a brief thing because it's the B plot. Then there's this entire thing we see like one of the generals working for Locke apparently is not happy with him, but we've only seen her like once or twice before, and there's been no signs of this or anything else. Not even really any signs of him being like excessively bad to her or any of his other generals or whatever before. So this kind of just comes out of nowhere, and it just seems like it's not earned. Like, again, it's something that could very well work, and I've seen work in many things, where it's like the leader of a country, a group of bad guys, whatever else, is shitty towards their followers. And so the followers start to realize this and start to work to maybe betray them. Like you see this in a lot of different things, but usually there's more to it. Like it's actually built up, and you get to see multiple examples of this character being berated and mistreated by the leader. So it's like just seeing just this kind of like glimpse at it here as if it's something we're supposed to have already known about just feels wrong, if I'm being honest. It just feels, again, like it kind of comes out of nowhere. And who knows if it'll even make a difference in the end. It's like we don't know anything about this character. So it's like we don't really have a reason to feel bad for her with all of this going on. I just I don't know. I feel like, again, I don't know what the comic for this is like, but it feels like this show is taking plot points from the comic and condensing them down to such simplistic, like, versions of themselves that they're just a shell of what they are actually supposed to be. And I don't know if that's true or not. I can't say one way or the other. But what I can say is that it's bringing in a lot of different topics, a lot of different ideas, and not really giving any of them the chance to breathe. Not giving any of them the chance to feel like they're natural to this world or to the concept of this series. And most of this stuff just doesn't seem to matter much. Like the entire thing about with those guys who were clearly trying to take advantage of Sam sexually, because I don't think they knew she was a robot. Um, and then they end up being like amused by her insults and shit. And it's like, what does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with anything? And that's pretty much a lot of what's going on in this series. Either it has nothing to do with anything, or it's such an interesting concept that they just don't give enough time to develop. Like the other Casey's, I would have loved to know more about that. I would have loved to maybe have found out that, oh yeah, Casey, by the way, came from this floating city of rich snobs. And maybe maybe Casey found out like her past or something and realized like something about like how she used to serve or whatnot, people up there. That would have been so fascinating. But no, they don't even consider that. They just show like, oh, there's a bunch of robots that are kind of the same model and everything as Casey. We acknowledge that very briefly, and then it's just like just fatalism for the rest of the that plot point. And it's like, oh my god, you have so much potential here and you're wasting it. And there's multiple characters who we have not seen yet, 9 episodes in, or at least have only like seen in a very brief scene, a like what, not even 20-second scene. There's multiple bad guys in the opening who we've seen for like less than 20 seconds throughout these 9 episodes. And it's just like, it's ridiculous because it's like we only have 3 episodes left, and you're going to try to introduce three more notable villains who are in the opening. Plus, 9 is supposed to come back within this time. Presumably, I would assume so, considering again he's in the opening and does stuff in the opening that we haven't seen him do, such as the fire breathing. And if that doesn't come into play, it's like, what? That would be. Obviously, we're gonna finish this out. We're only 3 episodes away. But I've actually become frustrated with this series. It started off really good and I really liked it, and I still love the concept. But I feel like this is a series that could really benefit from a reboot. I know this only came out in 2019, and I know it's not like that old or really that popular or anything, but this could definitely stand for a reboot from a bigger studio, bigger directors or whatnot, people who would actually put forth a little more effort into telling a story with this rather than just a series of crazy encounters and a bunch of bullshit they don't actually focus on for more than an episode's length of time. Like, there's only really 2 aspects of this that actually seem to matter right now, and that's getting to Gara's Keep and the entire journey. Or, well, actually, no, because that goes in with getting to Gara's Keep. Both sides, the Prince Kelby and Odin, and Philly and the crew getting to Gara's Keep, both sides of them. But also, there's also the aspect of just the scenes we were seeing with Locke and the King, which I guess are now over because it's like we might see Locke talking to other villains, but it's like the King is dead. So it's like they took away one of the more interesting things that was delivering us lore, and one of the things that made it at least interesting. And again, I'll just leave it off on this because there's really not much else I have to say about these episodes. So I'll just leave it off on this. Like I said, this series had amazing potential, great ideas and concepts, and certain aspects of it are very well done, such as the voice acting, the music, the character designs. But the potential of this series was completely squandered and just completely wasted. And considering how big this series could have been, that's really disappointing. If this series had been done right, then it would have been such a big deal because of this being such a black led series based off of a comic created by a black person. And this could have been such a big deal for black creators, and especially in the anime industry. Like, this could have inspired so many more people, and it still might, mind you, and I hope it does. I hope it does inspire more young black creators to just give us more awesome content. But at the same time, it's just like, and again, I'm not. It's nothing against the creator of this, LaShawn Thomas, I think it is. If I'm wrong, I do very much apologize. It's nothing against the creator. It's more about the studio and everything that made the anime. Because I don't know what the creator's vision was like with the comic. I can only go based on what I'm seeing here. So it's just a lot of wasted potential. But we will finish it out next week. And then we will move on to Shaman King 2021. I hope that these last 3 episodes are at least entertaining enough to keep me invested. Because I will say, I was really bored watching these 3 episodes. I was losing my mind, like continuously looking at the time, like, okay, how long is this gonna last? Um, and again, just really being upset about how poorly everything was being handled. But I think I'll leave it there because I don't want to just keep ranting on forever about this. Tell me in the comments below what you thought of these episodes of Cannon Busters, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.